Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Monday, June 1st, 2020. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Happy Monday, everyone. Really quickly, I do want to invite you to join me later on this afternoon at 4 o'clock p.m. Central for the monthly market outlook that we will be hosting. Again, 4 o'clock p.m. Central. You can go to pivotboss.ecofin.co right here at the top, and you can create a free username login to jump into our community trading room there, and we will be hosting that inside the PivotBoss community room, in which we will be looking at futures, stocks, talking options. We'll be looking at opportunities for the month and heading into the rest of the summer, and we will also be recording the session as well and putting it out in case you want to rewatch it. So please join me later on, 4 o'clock p.m. Central at pivotboss.ecofin.co. The PivotBoss monthly market outlook will be later on today. Okay, let's take a look at the market right now. You have the ES here. This is not the ES, but here is the ES. The ES is currently down just 0.25% at the moment, but is inside a very narrow 4-day range. It's a developing 4-day range right now. You can see this right here. Down here, it is not quite magenta. It is 66% of ADR. It's usually 65 below would give you this signal right here, and that suggests that we are tightly compressed. We're at 66.8, so still very compressed, and the day's not over here. But we have a very narrow 3 to 4 day range that's developing. We rallied the entire month last month here, so May was up and closed at highs. You can see that's the previous high, previous close, and right now the previous close modestly offered at the moment. And if the high and close are offered, say we come up here and reject, short term we were looking for a pullback toward the pivot range. We've already hit the pivot range on the bottom end, but we can come back a little bit more, and then that could provide another bounce opportunity higher. If there's a failure, hold the midpoint of the previous month, that's where things get a bit more bearish. But right now we could pull back as deep as that midline there and still be a buying opportunity given the strength that we've seen off the March lows. Again, right now, very narrow range, uptrending market. If we were to pull back just a bit, again, it could be a buying opportunity off the pivot, the PIMAs here, where you have the nice little trigger zone. Any zone here off the pivot range and this trigger zone could be a great combination for a buy the dip opportunity early this month. Again, failure to hold the midline would suggest weakness. So let's take a look here at the NQ. You'll see the NQ also holding right at the previous month's high and the previous month's close. Again, when the previous month's high and close are this close to each other, there's a tendency for those to be offered early and a pullback to occur back toward the midline of the previous month's range. So previous month's high, previous month's midpoint, previous month's low. And so if there's a rejection here, 9,600 early in the week, today, for example, we could see a pullback. Does it go back to 9,200, 9,250? Do we go back as deep as 9,100? We will see. But again, this market hasn't had many deep pullbacks. It's had 2 to 3 day rotations. So again, the first 2 to 3 days could be a little bit of a pullback, and then we could bounce right on off the pivot range and continue higher. So again, we got to see how this market starts off early. Again, when you close near the highs of the month, after a trending month like this, there is a tendency to take them offered and kind of pull back some. We'll see how this plays out. All right, let's take a look now at crude oil. You'll see with crude oil, we're holding at highs, very narrow range right now, 44% of ADR. You can see only $1.14 of range, very, very small overall, and it's holding at the highs. Again, previous month's high, previous month's close. We're right at those levels. When they're that close after a straight up month last month, crude oil went from $17.50 first trading day of the month and closed above 35. Tremendous move. Now, do we see a bit of a pullback again? This is the exact same idea with the ES and the NQ, is that we've closed near the highs of the month after a very bullish month. Perhaps there is a little bit of rejection at this high, which could turn us down a bit. Now we have pivot range support, perhaps PIMA trigger zone support, and that could provide a buy the dip opportunity until proven otherwise. Again, failure to hold the midline would suggest more weakness ahead. But given this strength, Again, any pullback early in the month, the first week of the month, could be a great buying opportunity for a continuation higher. Lastly, taking a look at gold futures, you'll see gold has stayed within the range for the most part here over the last nearly 2 months of trading, nearly a full month of sideways, and then most of the month, the previous month, basically nearly 2 months of sideways price action. But this market continues to hold above the key range high of 1704. That is the important level. Last week I mentioned keep an eye on 1700. It's a big level. We hit it to the tick and bounced off that level 60, 70 handles. Again, that's an important zone right here, but really more important is 1675 down below. If we fail to hold that zone, then we may see a rotation back toward 1570, maybe even all the way back to 1450. Now again, anytime you have a range that is developed at or above a key range high, it typically is up there for distribution, and then you see some sort of markdown that follows. Doesn't have to be that way, but again, 1675 is going to be the level that tells us what to do here. So if price drops into the zone, it could be a great buy. If it fails here, we open up at least 100 handles down to 1575. All right, that is it for now. Again, please join me later on this afternoon at 4 o'clock p.m. Central at pivotboss.ecofin.co for the monthly market outlook. Again, I am Frank Ochoa, and wishing you a great week this week, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.